What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the final episode of the DISC acronym explanation series.
Hey, it only took you 4 times to get that.
Yeah, the last one, I think I nailed it. So, if you haven't watched the D, I, or S episode, please go and watch those. There are great, just like nuggets from each one that are super helpful in not just your marriage, but in everyday relationships. So I do highly recommend going and watching them. We've got them cut down to around the 15-minute mark, easy to consume. And we are now on the final letter of DISC. Ash, take it away.
So the final letter of DISC, we got the D, dominant, red. We got the I, influencer, yellow. We've got the S, steady, green. Look at that, testing my knowledge there. So number 4, we got the C. What does C stand for?
Well, it's funny because this one is the one that nobody likes the term.
So we might like the color more.
Yeah, so we'll say this is blue, okay, but it does stand for compliant. We didn't dream that up. That the people who designed this back 50 something 70 years ago are the ones that, and we've tried to, as we make these presentations, we've tried to come up with another term, and we always go back, okay, compliance pretty good, you know, but I'm, you know, I listen to people all the time, but the C's always say, I don't like this term.
Sure.
Why do I
But
have
you
to
even said from episode 1, you said there's no bad behavior style.
Yeah.
And so even with a term that you might not like, there's still positives
Sure.
to that.
Sure. And I will tell you this, I don't think we may have covered this in our very, very first podcast on introductory to marriage matters. But the myths are that one particular gender is one behavior style. False. You can be any behavior style, man or woman. Another I think myth is that only one behavior can be associated with a work job, you know, or a type.
Like a manager must be dominant.
Yeah, that's not the case.
Yeah.
We've done some work with some organizations, and a lot of times, to this point, a lot of the people that are the majority of the leadership in a company are C's, which is just testimony to the C's. You know what I'm saying? So it throws out another myth that I just want to make sure I threw that out there, because I didn't want anybody to misunderstand that in our discussions that you had to be a certain behavior style.
I like that.
Yeah.
So why don't y'all tell us a little bit about the positive qualities, the strengths of a C that they bring to the table?
Well, first of all, we've been doing, there are 12% of the people who take the assessment are C's. So we had D's. I'm going to try to remember this, okay? So D's, I think, were 9% of the population.
Yep.
I's were 12%?
11%.
Close enough, yeah. And then the S's were, we just did it the previous one, so if you just watched it, 68%.
Nailed it.
Large percentage. And now we've got the C's, okay? So some of to get to your question, what are some of the strengths of the C? Do you want to tell the C's, or you want me to?
Okay.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Okay.
That's awfully kind of you.
Yeah, I'll yield to you.
Well, the C's.
Well, I changed my mind. I think I want to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
The C's are competent. I know that's the other word we thought about switching with compliant, but they're competent, they're accurate, they're tactful, they're careful, they're systematic, they like peace, they're focused, they pay attention to details, and they can lead in extreme pressure if they have time. They like to plan. They want every T crossed and every I dotted. They have meticulous details, and they like structure and processes. So they like the organization models. They're going to read the directions when you put furniture or you put something together. They're not going to just try to put it together. They're going to follow the manual to put it together word for word.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So blues are just very meticulous.
Okay. Yeah, And so, so with that, those are a lot of positive qualities that a C could bring to the table, or a blue, right? Get the color right.
Blue.
Could bring to the table. But even with positives, like with all the other ones, we've talked about some challenges that might come. And so, what are some challenges?
Sure, so we look at DISC in a lot of ways and talking about marriage and things like that. So a lot of these things are perceptions, but the old cliche, perception's reality. And we can make perception of our spouse or our children, and those perceptions can live on for years and years and years. And that's why DISC is so powerful, because once you learn this and unpeel the onion and start learning about the behaviors of people, you go, oh, I get it. We've talked about that already in sessions, but I want to kind of revisit that, because when a C or a blue realizes what I'm about to say, a light might come on, because this is a challenge. Sometimes a C can be viewed as a perfectionist. Now that can be positive and a challenge.
Absolutely.
But it can be, I've heard blues say before that I wished I didn't like it to be, perfect. But guess what they do? And that is a huge strength. But on the other side, it can be challenged a lot of times to go from one behavior style, might say, to a blue that says, why does it always have to be perfect?
And that's where the conflict starts coming up.
That's right. So the blue doesn't intend to be perfect. That's not, they're not living in an eggshell or a bubble. They just don't understand why $1,231.82. What's the difference in that and $1,200? The blue says there's a lot of difference.
Yeah.
But it's because how they're genetically made up. Okay? Not necessarily the job they have, but in a relationship, if you have a child that is a blue and you're a blue as a parent, guess what? No big deal. You're going to sit around and talk about $1,281.13 like it's normal. But little brother or whoever is there sitting outside that circle looking at them going, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard in my life. Why are you, it's $1,000.
Yeah.
It's not $1,281.13. It's $1,000.
Yeah.
And to your point, Ashlyn, is that, does that plant a seed for conflict? Sure it does.
Yeah. As with
Um,
any of the behavioral styles we've talked about, those challenges with any of them can be a point of conflict. And that's in marriage and work relationships and friendships and all the ways. So let's kind of go into, not marriage yet. Let's focus on social situations. So how might a C or a blue act in social settings?
Well, they're going to seem like they're standoffish and they're disengaged, but they're quiet and reserved, and so they're not your social butterflies. They're going to be the ones that are they're watching. So they're not disengaged, but they're watching and they're reading the room. And if you approach them, they'll probably engage with you, but they may not approach you. They're not real big public speakers. They'd rather run the numbers and do things behind the scenes. That's not to say that they can't rise to the occasion and speak when they have to. That's just not their preferable mode. They're introverts, so and they are task oriented. So they can do that quietly. They work really well alone. They can work on a team, but they have to have a task, and you have to have tasks. And so if you come back to that team and you've not completed the task, that's going to be very disappointing for them socially, because they had high expectations.
Would you say that a C has the most difficult time adapting to a dominant behavioral style of all of them?
Maybe when we get into our presentations, we show you a graph. We show different graphs of how you can communicate with the different styles. And so when you look at a D and a C, and a C and a D, vice versa, there are some gaps and there are some ways that you can improve upon that. They are both come across as firm. So it's not that it's necessarily, I would say that that's probably one of the most challenging. Now, you can get two I's in the room they can have a challenge too because they both want to talk.
Mm.
And so somebody's got to listen.
Yeah.
And if two eyes want to both talk, then they have a little bit of a communication issue too.
Right.
So it depends on if the C can adapt to the boldness of the D.
Mm.
And so, on the lines of communication, how does someone need to communicate with the C? What do they need to do to make that easier?
Probably be direct. I mean, not too direct. Respect their opinions. So when you ask their opinion, let them get it out. Don't say that's a crazy idea or that's never going to work. If you do come up with a big idea, let's say the D comes up with a big idea, the yellow's like, oh yes, they're the cheerleader. The S is like, let me think about it. The C is going to say it's not going to work because, or have you thought about? They're the ones asking all of the tough questions to get the processes in place to make that happen. So when you communicate with a C, whatever style that you are, you have to be in their inner circle. You do have to have a level of respect, make eye contact, and value them as a person, similar to how you would the green, the steady.
I would add that don't be critical of them.
Yes, that's one of the things.
You will shut down a blue compliant that quick if you're critical. And some other behavior styles tend to do that very quickly,
Okay.
but they don't mean it the way a C is hearing it.
Right.
So what I just described is marriage.
Yes.
And we talk about the workplace in a whole another subject, but in a relationship, a husband and wife are having a conversation. You need to know if you're married to a C blue. You just need to know it because they have some incredible strengths that can come to the marriage. But one behavior style, like a D, could be perceived as being a bulldog if you're looking at that through the lenses of a C. So a blue could look at a D and say, man, you're a bully, whoop, and shut down. You don't want a C to shut down. And therefore communication ceases,
Yeah.
you know. So, you know, if we reflect a little bit and just real quickly, is if we separated this table that we're at right now into two parts, there's extroverts and introverts. So the last two that we've done are S's and C's tend to be more introverts. The D's and I's are more extroverts. Okay, so if we think about that, when we start labeling people, not labeling people in a bad way, but evaluating people to determine, hey, real quickly, is Walker this, is Amy this, or whatever, we can start to determine this, and then people become very predictable. I wish somebody would have given us this in premarital counseling.
Yeah.
It would have been a huge tool to know this on the beginning, to know, because there was some definite, our marriage, we're 30 years plus going on, thankful for it, but you know, it could have been better if I would have understood her and she would have understood me. And because there was a lot of like, I don't know why she does that. She's sitting there going, I don't know why he does it that way. That's so goofy or whatever. But now we've seen, not that we agree with each other's styles any more than we ever did,
Right.
but we're predictable. We understand.
But you forgot about the other quadrant. Like the D and the C are task oriented,
Yes.
and the I and the S are people oriented.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So it's, you know, it's kind of like anything else. It's just identifying behavior styles that we've talked about, and there's so many layers. And like I said, I'm a particular style, you're a particular style, but we typically are majority two styles. So we've done the D, I, S, and C. Now you can look back and say, okay, you're an IS, an SI, CD, DC, ID.
There's
Yeah.
actually 12 different.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ones that, and your,
Combos.
the super, I think it's the super disc. You had another name for it earlier. Is that chameleon sometimes but we've had two in hundreds of these that we've done. Two results that have come back where they're level
On all four.
on all four. And I always find an opportunity in the
Rare.
presentations to go get to know them a little more. Because they're interesting behaviors to
Yeah.
merge all those in. And you can't outsmart the assessment. It's not like, oh, they figured it out. No, they're just, and like I said, 2 in several hundred we've done.
And we actually all personally know somebody who took the test once, claimed this is not what I am, there is no chance this is what I am, I'm going to take it again.
And get
Took-
something different.
Took it again and got the exact same thing. And like,
And their spouse agreed with the first one.
exactly.
Yeah, so.
So, yeah, I just, one, I really appreciate y'all sitting down and
Well, I took it
Just-
10 years apart.
really, and got the same thing.
Yeah.
Stronger.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So can I ask you a question?
Please,
And this is very spontaneous, and I'm sorry about that.
go ahead.
We like a little spontaneous. Usually Walker's the one to strike, and he's probably going to have the last word because he's probably got one hidden up his sleeve here.
No, I don't. I really don't.
So he's nervous right now, and I'm going to enjoy this moment like you've never seen,
Go
okay? No, seriously. So we had a workshop up in the hills, a little retreat, marriage retreat, where we did this exercise with DISC with some young married couples. They participated. I'm giving them some time to think about, real quickly, in 10 seconds, maybe 15, 20 seconds, whatever you need, whatever you want to take.
Oh, I can
it's
edit
your
out
show.
whatever. I
It's
can
your
edit out
show. It's your show.
Yeah.
Okay? But tell us because we've seen you transform in the couple of 2 or 3 years that you've known this language. And I'd like to hear from y'all to say, okay, from then to now, what do you think about DISC?
I'm not going to take all 20 seconds to figure out my answer. I'll just go ahead and say something. I think knowing this language has done nothing but improve my ability to interact with people and react to people in social situations and the workplace, and with Ashlyn, just knowing we're not going to reveal what our letters actually are, but I would just make something up in my mind. Should I say this in response to her if we were having a disagreement? But now, knowing DISC and knowing who I am in my behaviors and who she is through her behaviors, it is now easier for me to take a moment and go, this is the best way to communicate with her in this moment. So I think it has just helped, it truly has helped communication with just about everybody.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think I agree on that. And 2, I think it's not only given us language and helped us to communicate better, but we've made it fun too. Like, we joke about it. Like, when we notice our, letter color coming out, like we poke fun at each other for it. And not in a mean way, but just in a way like, I get you. Like, I understand you. And so, and we have a lot more to understand, a lot more to work on and grow from, but I feel like it gave us a foundation to learn each other more. And y'all are 30 plus years in. We just celebrated 6 years of marriage, and I feel like, yeah, woohoo, we can celebrate that. But it's just given us a foundation to keep improving, keep growing together, and just learning how to adapt to each other.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you. I apologize for the spontaneous question. But
No.
thank you for answering that. That really gives us feedback. And I think it's good for them too.
Yeah.
Well,
To
and we
hear.
can just say that sometimes opposites attract.
That's right.
Ooh,
So that's
did
your
that give
hint.
a
Boy, she's
hint?
bordering.
hint.
I think she said we're not the same. Behavior style.
Y'all, you mean y'all aren't the exact same person behaviorally?
I think
Guess
after 4
what?
episodes, they've already figured that out.
We aren't either.
Not even
Give it the
close.
hints, give it the hints. And here's what's cool about this, because we talked about this a little bit, is that, we think of Ken and Barbie on the dolls. We've just talked about behaviors here in these 4 sessions. We haven't talked about the gender differences, which I'll be honest with you, I am out of that. I don't have a clue, you know. But there's so many layers to marriage. You know?
So many. Yeah, you're exactly right. So I just wanted to thank y'all for doing what you have been doing for these past few years for us and for a lot of the couples that we are really close friends with. Y'all have played a huge part really with DISC specifically in a lot of our marriages and lives. So I think having this be out there to anybody who clicks on this video, this information being out there now is going to do nothing but be a big help to people, married or not. So I just wanted to say thank y'all for, you know, lending y'all's house to us again and having us here and going through this, because I think this series, this short series, is going to be so helpful for everybody, and y'all are a major part in that. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Welcome. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
You all. We love you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we love
we
y'all
love you
too.
too.
And we love you, listeners and viewers. If you're watching on YouTube, the camera just died. So, podcast listeners, this is primo stuff for y'all. Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
I was
Ashley's
just
about
going
to
to
say
say, we're just showing you that we are not perfect, and you don't have to be
Nobody
perfect
is.
either.
That's right. Amen. Thank you so much for watching and listening and joining us on this journey through explaining what DISC is. If you've liked what you heard or watched, please leave a like and comment down below. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Leave a 5-star review if you're listening to the podcast. And, you know, we have got a lot of stuff coming this year in 2025. So if you want to keep in touch with us, we will have the link to our Facebook in the comments below. We will have the link to our website if you want to reach out and take the DISC assessment yourself, just for you or you and your spouse. Get in touch with us and we can get that set up, because, again, I don't think there's really many cons to knowing your behavioral styles between the two of you. So thank y'all so much. We will see you in the next one. Peace.